Hello, in the headlines today, an international visit to a local school, and we talk about clinical commissioning groups with our guest. But first, here's Richard Morris with the news headlines.
Hello, in the headlines today, unemployment in the region has fallen once again and street lighting is changing across our area. Unemployment in the region has fallen more than in any other, according to statistics released yesterday. Labour market figures for the 3 months leading up to July show a 0.8% drop in unemployment on the previous quarter. The Prime Minister says employment rates are at record highs, although the 58% of people employed here is still well below the national average of 73%. But Liz Hutchinson from Job Centre North East Lincolnshire says we can afford to be positive as the numbers are a sign that employment opportunities are becoming more optimistic.
Traditionally, it's been around seafood and the food industry generally. We are looking now at things like renewables and some of the Humber developments lately around the wind farms, and just what other jobs that brings in. I think there will be lots of lessons to learn from up in Scotland, Aberdeen, and look at how their area took off. So I think it's absolutely fantastic for the area.
A search operation has sadly turned into a recovery operation after 2 bodies were recovered from the helicopter crash site at just before 5 p.m, which happened off the coast of Flamborough on Tuesday at 20 to 2. Both were deceased. The UK Air Accident Investigation Branch is now looking into the crash and leading a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the crash. Plans to build 200 new homes on land south of Grimsby's Diana Princess of Wales Hospital are currently on view to the public for consultation. A consultation event is currently underway at the hospital's main entrance that will finish at 8 p.m. tonight. Northern Lincolnshire and Goole NHS Foundation Trust are aiming to sell the land by March 2015.
What we're going through now is the process to develop outline planning permission, which we're looking to submit on the 3rd of October, following consultation with local residents. I think they need to come and have a look at the plans. I certainly think the area that we're looking at, it will be a significant improvement to that area. We are also submitting detailed accessibility surveys as part of our work, so that we address any concerns that residents may have around the increased transport within the area.
Tributes have been paid to Len Taylor, the first Mayor of North East Lincolnshire Council. Len died on Thursday morning at his home in Immingham after a long illness. He served as a Labour councillor for 40 years and was an accountant by trade. Councillor Mick Burnett shared with us his memories of working with Len.
A character to say the least, and his colourful Anglo-Saxon language was something to behold, but there was never any sort of aggressiveness in it. It's just how he was. He was a very caring man, and he did care about the people of North East Lincolnshire, and he also cared much about the people who lived in Immingham.
Humberside Police have set out their plans on how the force will be run in the future. Over the coming months, the force will be moved into the areas where police are needed most. This will positively impact areas such as Hull and Grimsby, receiving the most amount of officers. Brigg and Immingham are set to receive less attention from police. Humberside Police and Crime Commissioner Matthew Grove said that he was content that areas which needed change are being addressed. He also said investment in mobile technology will help the force over the coming months. Councillors in North East Lincolnshire are celebrating the installation of new street lighting that they say will save money. New LED lighting has been installed in most areas of the borough and is said to produce a more natural looking light than traditional street lights. However, the move has been met with controversy over the actual cost to the council to buy and install the lights and whether they aren't bright enough. Councillor David Watson, portfolio holder for the environment at NELC, answered the questions about the costs and whether the lights work to their full potential.
Yeah, the council took a brave decision to replace all the streetlights in the borough. It's a cost of £10 million, but that'll be got back in about 16 years. It brightens the environment, makes it safer, one of our priorities. Well, there is a public perception that outside the area of the beam it is darker. but it is just a perception.
If in the meantime you have a news story for us, then please don't hesitate to contact us on Grimsby 315561. Bye for now.
Thank you, Richard. Now, over the last week, visitors from a school in Zimbabwe have been experiencing life in Cleethorpes. It's part of a British Council-funded scheme to encourage cultural diversity and has been so successful at Middlethorpe Primary that it's being extended to include schools from Europe, and a school in Hull is starting the scheme next week. While at the school, David Nunn found out about how the scheme has affected life in both of the schools.
Cleethorpes School is playing host to international visitors. Middlethorpe School in Cleethorpes is hosting visitors from a school in Matari in Zimbabwe as part of a pairing scheme between the two schools, which is funded by the British Council.
Yeah, we've got a project. We've got two projects running, international projects. One is a European project. One is a project with schools in Africa. They're both funded through the British Council, and that enables us to visit and receive visitors from all those countries. We're linked with 7 European countries, Turkey, Greece, France, Spain, Italy, etc. And 2 schools in Africa are from Cape Town in South Africa and Matari in Zimbabwe. And we're lucky enough to have colleagues from Zimbabwe with us this week.
This scheme brings many benefits for the children of both schools. It allows the children to learn about other cultures they may not otherwise be exposed to, and learn about how other people around the world live their lives.
2 ways really, both educationally and culturally. It's fantastic for our children to experience life in different cultures. Cultural diversity is low in the area, and we think it's important that we take culture to the children and make sure that they develop a high level of respect for others and an understanding of other people across the world. So culturally, it's about our children and adults learning about those different cultures, but both educationally as well, because we can learn from different systems and different approaches in other countries, and they can learn from us, so it's mutually beneficial.
They've learned to exchange the cultures. They do know more about England. They can share ideas, and also they can create that relationship of communicating with other children here in England.
It's a scheme that has been well received by the children from both schools, and one which has the potential to expand. Already, Middlethorpe are bringing a school in Hull on board and are hoping to expand it further, and that the scheme is funded for years to come.
Yeah, we have just been successful in getting funding for the next round of the European project. It was called Communis, it's now called Erasmus+. And we'll look for continuation funding for this project as well.
It's quite enriching. You share experiences. As leaders, you also learn from one another and from different systems, different curriculums, different approaches. So I've learned quite a lot. Yes, personally, it has enriched, and it enables me to initiate other projects in my school, and learning from the experience that I've had from this partnership.
In the end, the scheme benefits everyone. The children get to learn about diversity and different cultures, and the teachers get to collaborate with each other to improve their own standards, so it benefits everyone and is well received enough to continue. David Nunn, Estuary TV News.
Thank you, Dave. Now, healthcare is changing, and unless it does, we could face quite severe circumstances in North East Lincolnshire. Here today to talk to me about these changes is Chief Executive of the North East Lincolnshire Clinical Commissioning Group, Dr. Peter Melton. Dr. Peter, thank you very much for coming in today. So, first of all, before we go any further, could you please explain, because I'm not sure if everyone's quite clear on it, what is a clinical commissioning group?
Well, clinical commissioning groups were part of key plank of the reforms for this government. In terms of the way I try and describe it, it's about taking what works well within the consulting room. If you're my patient, I'll describe to you what I've found in terms of some of the issues, some of the problems, and then between the pair of us, we'll actually come to an agreement in terms of what's the best management plan for you. And actually, when you measure satisfaction rating, when that works well for both doctor and patient, that's really what drives the whole healthcare system in terms of improved outcomes. What clinical commissioning groups are is about trying to apply that same approach to big service change. So it's about groups of doctors and nurses working with the whole population to say, these are some of the difficult issues that we're going to have to work through. these are our options. Let's work together to try and come up with some good solutions that we all think is the right thing for our area.
So previously we had primary care trusts, which were sort of administrative bodies that decided where care would be administered. And what you're saying is now these clinical commissioning groups are made up of doctors and the kind of people who can help decide where that care is delivered.
Yeah, I mean, every practice within the area, such as North East Links, so we've got 30 GP practices, they actually form the membership of the Clinical Commissioning Group. So it's a membership-based organisation where every practice is actually having to share in the responsibility to design and deliver care in the best possible way for the patients who are registered with them. So it's about aligning that accountability with responsibility through the practices and down to the individual GPs and nurses, so very powerful.
And we talk about delivering care. I mean, you mentioned that the way which we deliver healthcare is going to have to change because you've got some quite pressing budgetary restraints to overcome over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, the country as a whole is going through this. I mean, nationally, there was a big document that came out a couple of years ago called A Call to Action, which is saying the way in which services are delivered at the moment is not sustainable.
Why is that?
Well, I think for a couple of things. One is in terms of our expectations. We want everybody to have access to the best quality healthcare services which are available anywhere in the country and make sure that they're consistently available. But that sometimes comes at a price.
Yeah.
New technology, new drugs, we hear about that all the time. Again, they can be expensive. Actually, when you look at the rising demographic challenge, and by that we mean increasing older population
yeah.
within North East Links as a whole, the over 65s are growing at a rate of 1% every year.
And all of this costs money to deal with.
Well, it does cost money if we continue to deliver things deliver care in the way that we always have done.
If we continue to deliver care in the way which we always have done, I mean, we have to find some cuts over the next 3 years, don't we? Because we would drastically overspend in the area.
I think the important point is that, and I think this is an important message for the public at large, we have a statutory responsibility to spend every penny that's allocated for North East Lincolnshire and every other CCG in the best way that we can. So it's not actually about making cuts, it's not about making services, it's about making sure that we spend the money that's allocated for the area in the most effective way.
I see what you mean, Peter, but you're currently undergoing a consultation period at the moment and you're asking the public a number of questions. What are you asking people? What do you want to find out from them?
Well, at the moment we're out to formal public consultation on two key areas. One is about hyperacute stroke. So people will be aware that over the last winter we had to make a temporary suspension to the hyperacute services at Grimsby and centralise them at Scunthorpe. At both Grimsby and Scunthorpe, we were only able to provide hyperacute stroke, and what we mean by that is when somebody becomes symptomatic, a small percentage of people will actually benefit from clot-busting drugs. We were only running the services Monday to Friday through part of the day. So if you had a stroke outside of those hours, whether you were in Grimsby or Scunthorpe, actually you weren't having access to these clot-busting drugs. So we made a decision to centralise that at Scunthorpe. The response has been really positive, the outcomes have been really good, the patient experience has been positive. We've had external doctors and nurses coming in to assess the service and they're saying that they're really good. But we want to make a permanent decision about, is this something we should continue with? And we're out to consultation on that at the moment.
And briefly, because we are running out of time, but we've also got ear and nose services, is that right?
Yeah, the other one that we're consulting on is ear, nose and throat inpatient services. At the moment, it's difficult again because we don't have enough doctors to be able to maintain on-call services both at Grimsby and Scunthorpe. And at the moment, we're doing 3 weeks on one hospital, 2 weeks on the other, which just causes confusion. And then when you've got the handover arrangements, it creates a risk for patients. So the proposal is to centralise inpatient ear, nose and throat services at the Grimsby site. Outpatients and day cases will still be maintained at both sites.
And if people would like to get involved in this consultation, give their views, how would they do so?
Well, there's lots of different ways. Get in touch with your own practice.
Be brief, please, Peter.
Get in touch with your own practice, go on our website, there's lots of documents around, follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Thank you very much for coming in today. Now, I'm afraid that is all we've got time for today, but if you've got stories, you can get in touch by calling us on 315 561, that's a Grimsby number. Also on social media, Facebook or Twitter, or email us on news@estuary.tv. Bye for now.